What's up, everyone? Eli here, and I am sitting against a blank fucking wall. I'm almost done with my moving and shit, so I was gonna do a video outside, but I started. It was way too fucking hot, dude. I was becoming drenched in sweat just sitting there talking. Or that might just be how out of shape I am, talking too much, sweating. Anyways, we're gonna pick up where we left off in the last video. 10 CDs, all in the letter C, a couple different bands, all good shit. Fuck, I got them all out of their organization. I don't know English. Alright, we're going to start off returning with Carcass. Heartwork. Yeah, Heartwork. What can we say about Heartwork? I'm obviously not going to ever add anything to this album that hasn't already been discussed for the last 20 years. More than 20 years. But, yeah, man. What do you think? Heartwork. I guess I'll just give my quick rundown on it. I don't hate Heartwork, and that might be because I wasn't listening to Carcass in '93. Didn't discover him until like 2000 or something. So I don't know. I'll be honest. I mean, I liked that album when I first got it when I was 18 or whatever. I liked it then. I liked it quite a bit over the years, though it hasn't aged as well. But I still think it's. This is my take on it. Knowing my taste now, I probably, had I been listening to Carcass in '93, and before that, when this came out, I probably wouldn't have liked it much. I probably would have hated it. But, you know how it is, it's really fucking different when you get into an album years after it came out. You know, you weren't listening to that kind of stuff as those albums came out. You know, you didn't start with Putrefaction and Symphonies of Sickness. So it's different. Your opinions become different than those that were there listening to those albums as they were released in the 90s. So I you know, for me it gets a solid 6, maybe even 7 out of 10. I'll listen to it every couple years, but I mean, as the years go, I listen to it less and less and less. But it is what it is. I mean, I certainly don't like the direction that they took on that, the melodic death metal. I would have preferred more death grind. That's all I really ever wanted to hear from Carcass. It's all most people wanted to hear from Carcass, but it's not all we got. So what can you do? Next one, even more controversial, Swan Song. It's another album. I mean, I don't completely hate it. I like a couple songs on here, but I probably only listen to this every like 5 years or more. I mean, it's one of those albums, yeah, I own it. Will I ever even listen to it again? I'll probably listen to this no more than 2 more times in my remaining days. So, I mean, anyways, came out, what, 95, I think it was? 95? Had I been listening to, well, I already went over that. If I remember correctly, I think Carcass, I mean, it's called Swan Song for a reason, I believe. If I remember correctly, they had intended for that to be their final album. Before even they wrote it, that's what it was going to be. What they were thinking as to why it sounds the way it does, I'm kind of confused on like why did they go out? They did not go out with a bang. Why did they go out making their most accessible, mainstream sounding album to date? Why did they do that? I don't know. I don't remember. I'm sure I've read stories about it. I don't know. It's a weird way to go out, I gotta admit. Going out with your worst album almost intentionally. But anyway, I know for most people it's a no-go. It's more or less a no-go for me too, but I mean, once again, I enjoyed listening to it occasionally when I was younger, and that just, it kind of, I don't know. Does it get a pass for me? I'm not really sure. I'd probably give it a 4, maybe 5 out of 10. Anyways, I'm droned on about that for too long as it is. We have their comeback album, obviously, Surgical Steel. These albums are hard to talk about, these last 3 Carcass albums. I'm finding myself kind of grasping for straws here. What can we say about Surgical Steel? I think pretty much, you know, it's all been said. I think we all have. I showed that upside down, by the way. But anyway, I liked the cover. You know, I thought that was a cool way to return. I liked what I had read about the album before it came out, so I gotta say, initially I was a little disappointed because you had all these fucking people like, oh man, it's a return to the early sound. It's a return. It's kind of like Heartwork meets Symphonies of Sickness. There's no comparison to be found on this album to Symphonies. There's not even nothing. There's no grind elements on this entire album. It's more like Heartwork. It's like a continuation of Heartwork. It should have came out probably instead of Swan Song. So after listening to it a bunch of times, I kind of accepted it for what it was. It's not the worst comeback you've ever heard. It's an okay melodic death metal album. The songwriting is there. The musicianship is there. It's got a good production. If you like melodic death, it's pretty good. I'm not the biggest melodic death fan, but anyway, yeah, it's a decent comeback album, but it's not the direction I wanted. I didn't want to hear another album like that from Carcass. I didn't want to hear Swan Song Part 2. Or I mean, Heartwork Part 2. And the final album I own from Carcass, or CD, just not an album, but Choice Cuts. This is a compilation which would essentially have been worthless had it not had the Peel sessions on it. That's why I bought it. It's got Peel sessions from 89 and 90. Other than that, it's just a compilation of Carcass songs. So it's worth buying for the Peel sessions, and that is literally it. Alright, we're done with Carcass. Now we have one of the few Funeral Doom albums I like, one of the very few that I own. We've got Catacombs in the Depths of R'lyeh. I think it's pronounced R'lyeh from Lovecraft lore. 2006, came out on Moribund Records. It's a very cool Funeral Doom album, very Lovecraft inspired. Everything on this, every lyric, every song, the artwork, it is all Lovecraft inspired, and it's very cool. It's a very good Funeral Doom album. It's heavy. It's everything, personally, everything you'd want in a Funeral Doom album, I think. It's heavy. It's bleak as fuck. It's eerie sounding. It's got, the atmosphere is awesome. I think it's great. I think most Funeral Doom fans consider it pretty much a classic in that genre, but it's not exactly the one that I see come up the most. But I do see it mentioned from time to time. I'm not the biggest Funeral Doom fan, but when I want some Funeral Doom, that's one of the first couple albums I reach for, to be honest. And the remaining 5 albums are all from Cathedral, so we're kind of doing a lot of earache stuff here, which is cool by me. Classic earache stuff. We'll kick it off with, I don't own Force of Equilibrium, so that kind of sucks for me. I don't know why I don't have it, but I don't. The earliest thing I have from Cathedral is the amazing Soul Sacrifice EP. Fucking awesome. I love this EP. I wish they would have continued and done more in the vein of this sound. I mean, it's slightly in the vein of Force of Equilibrium, but not completely. It's a bit different. I really like Lee Dorian's vocals on this, which is not something I say about Lee very often. When it comes to his vocals in Cathedral, very hit and miss for me. I don't often enjoy his just his vocals in general. Sometimes sometimes I like him, but anyway, I really like him on this album, this EP. I wish it were a full album. It's very, very good stuff. It's among the best stuff they ever did, and yeah, I'm happy to have it. Next up after that, we have the Ethereal Mirror. This is also a good album. It's a departure in sound from what came out before it. It's more of a kind of more like boogie rock influences, but it's still very good. This album, if I remember correctly, this was a pretty big hit for them. Yeah, it was. Earache put it out, but it was also licensed under Sony Music in Columbia. So yeah, this was in the time. This was '93. This is when a lot of the underground bands were breaking into the mainstream. So I know a lot of people like that album, and a lot of people don't. Like I said, there's a lot more. In addition to the doom, it's not as heavy. It's a lot more boogie rock influence, but I think it's good for what it is. A couple more. We have. This is they were no longer on Earache. They were on Spitfire Records. We have The Seventh Coming. I remember buying this years ago, and I really dug this album at the time, and I to be honest, I think it still holds up pretty well today. It's kind of a return to a more heavy sound. It's heavier than some stuff that came out before it. It's got some masterful doom songs on here that I really fucking like. I don't remember exactly. I haven't listened to this in years, but it's heavy. It's got some cool songs. And one of their last few albums. This is one of my favorite things they've ever done, actually. Garden of Unearthly Delights on Nuclear Blast. This album is killer. This album is very heavy. Songwriting, it's heavy and dark, and the songwriting is great. I think it's one of the best things they've ever done. Upon Azrael's Wings, Corpse Cycle, Jesus Christ, Oro the Manslayer. I mean, great album. For me, this is like a 9 out of 10 Doom album. Underrated even. I don't see it talked about very much. And last but not least, we have the final Cathedral album. This is the one that they went out on, and I can't think of a better way for them to, to wrap it up with. Slipcase. There's what the cover looks like. This album was killer. I believe that they purposely, went on to do that. They wanted to leave off with a, and they said that they wanted to leave off with a heavier album, something a little bit more. A little closer to their early stuff, and they did that, man. This album is heavy as fuck. It's dark, and it was a great way to go out. One of my favorite things about this album is Scott Carlson's bass sound. Scott from Repulsion, his bass sound on this album is absolutely killer. It's grimy, it's filthy, it's loud, it's thick. It is just one of my favorite bass sounds on any album. And I don't say that very often, but it's just it draws me in every time I hear it. And what was cool about this also, not only was it a cool way for them to conclude their career, but it was the first album that Scott got to play on, and I know he was really proud of that, and I'm really proud of him for achieving that. He'd been in the band on and off for a long time, but never got to play on any recordings, so he was really happy to do it. I don't know, you know Scott from Repulsion. I don't know if anyone's ever talked to him, or he's a really cool guy, I gotta say. Out of anyone that I've read interviews from, heard interviews from, and even talked to from time to time, like on Facebook, Scott's just a really cool guy, stand-up guy, awesome dude. And I mean, not only has he done, he was in Repulsion, so his musical legacy is awesome, but he's a fucking cool guy, which you don't always get. You don't always get both. So anyways, that's it. That is all I have. Ended with Cathedral. I don't know where we'll start on the next video, but it'll be whatever. It'll be what it is. As usual, thanks for everyone that's been messaging me. I've had a couple people find me on Facebook. That's awesome. I appreciate that. I could always use more friends. Love talking to you guys. And yeah, man, everyone have a good weekend, or by the time I upload this, who fucking knows when it'll be, but have a good week. Thanks for stopping by. We'll talk soon. Bye.